How you doing, guys? We are back for round 13. Obviously, it's a big week here, the first bye round, and I need to point out a couple of things. So obviously, all the guys, there's a lot of teams on a bye, 7 teams on a bye, and then all of the Origin guys don't play this week. I've seen a few guys in my comments asking, questions around this and saying, "Oh, I'll have, this amount of players if these two Origin guys back up." They miss round 13 no matter what. They're in Origin camp now, so they don't play this weekend. They're in camp. And then they will play Origin Wednesday, and then for round 14, they'll potentially be backing up. And that's what we're hoping for if you're holding any Origin guys. So in this video, I wanted to go through the best 13 that you could possibly make, in my opinion, for round 13. And I'm going to go through each position and the best scorers, in my opinion, and then we'll go through all the potential mid-range and cheaper options that you could either buy in your side or potentially are holding already, and I would tell you to continue holding just so you can get closer to that 13. And with the big news, and I think it's almost confirmed, we'll find out this afternoon, of Lockie Miller being dropped and Ponga going to fullback, that is what I'm going off here in this section and all of the best 13. So you see Ponga feature in that, and that is why, because he's not in Origin and he's likely going to be playing fullback with Miller being dropped. So what we're noticing now with a lot of guys like Frizzell, the Fleglers, Hudson Young, these types of guys, Reece Walsh, that have made Origin, and now Lockie Miller being dropped, obviously there's still a large amount of people that own him. It's going to be very difficult to get 13 on the park, so very likely you're going to have to be playing a couple of those real cheap guys in a few of these positions. So let's get straight into this one here. And now that Cook has not been named for Origin, he is going to be my best hooker, I think, in round 13 for scoring. And somewhere between that 50 to sort of 65, I'm going to put for Cookie. Obviously, with a couple of guys out, it will be the Cook and the Cody Walker show. And I think the Cookie is going to get out there and run a little bit more. But obviously, still having both of his halves there. It's only the fullback that they lose. And, Campbell Graham potentially is going to still be playing, even with his sternum injury. He's been playing with the last bunch of weeks. So that's something to note there. And obviously, this is before the team list. So there will be cheapies that come out. But most likely in round 13, I'm not going to push you towards these kind of cheapies that will play one game. If there's a couple in there that potentially play a couple of games over the Origin period, then they could be a guy that you do look to select that could, get a decent score out of him there. If they play 2 or 3 games, they could make a little bit of cash, and you could potentially trade them, in round 20 or something like that. They're going to pop up for sure. There's going to be a 1 or 2 cheapies for the Cowboys, with Murray Taulagi being out, with Val Holmes. That whole left-hand side is going to be out. I think they're going to name Laybutt or someone like that who's going to be cheap, but potentially and likely not going to be an option. But if they do come up, guys, in team list, I will mention them in that, and then I will go through it with Scoop in the video following that. So Cookie, obviously the main top dog, and considering you can only have 13 players, guys, so 1 hooker as a playing player this week, Cookie is the best option in my opinion. And then I'll have some shout outs to, your second and third best options. And that would be, I think, Jeremy Marshall-King just over Reece Robson there, who's been playing pretty poorly of recent time, missing a lot of tackles. And, Marshall-King missed a bunch as well, but he has that attacking upside at the moment in a team that's doing much better than the Cows. So obviously, you might be holding 1 or 2 of these guys already, and that's completely fine. If you have Robson, then you probably not going to be trading him out for Cook, like something like that. So you just, either of those 3 are going to be the best scorers, I think, in that one. We'll go to the mids now, and Jack de Belin, I think, is the best option this week. So if you don't own him and you want the best mid, then he could be a guy to select. I'll also go through the captaincy options as well, and I believe they're only in the hooking position, the mid, the edge, or the half, as the best options, and we'll speak about them. And Jack de Belin, I think, is a clear top option as a captaincy there, considering in the last 4 weeks, his lowest score is a 69. So he's been amazing, 70, pretty much over 70 each and every week in those. And, his lowest in the last 6 has been 52. And that was in, lower minutes when he had a HIA in there as well. So that's great for JDB and his owners, and I own him. So he's a potential captaincy option. I'm going to put AFB, so Adam Fanua-Blake, just over Tohu Harris. I think they're the second and third best options as a scorer this week. So most likely you won't have Adam Fanua-Blake. He is so much more expensive than these guys, but I think that he will be either the second or the third best scorer this week between him and Tohu Harris. So both those guys will have to step up. and try and get them a good win. I believe they play Broncos this week with a lot of players out. So, yeah, it'll be a mixture of those guys, Tapu, Jensen, all those guys through the middle. And I think that, Fanua Blake Harris can get a little bit of, could get the odd tackle break, the odd offload, try assist or try through the middle there. I think out of Fanua Blake, he's been doing it against better sides with, full squads. And now that, the team they're playing has a bunch out, he will be that guy. So Tohu Harris, I think, is going to be the biggest buy in this week just because he's a little bit cheaper than every option apart from Joe Tarpany in this one. They're a very similar price, I believe. So they're the top three guys. And then I own Horsburgh, and I think he's the fourth best, which if you have a mixture of any of these five, 3 out of these 5 would be delightful. If you can only manage 2 of them, and then you've got a Hame Sele or something like that, then that's going to work out as well. But the mids in this round 13 buy is very stacked, and you'll notice in round 16 that it's going to be much harder to field a really good midsection. So especially if you're picking up sort of, all of these guys here, all 5 of them, they miss out in round 16. So you get them in 13, 14, they all miss 16. And there'll be a few guys that come into, contention as potential purchases, but most of them aren't very good in terms of, how well they can score compared to these guys. So that's the midsection. And I think you need to have at least 2 of those guys with one of those cheapies, because the edge is pretty poor. So we actually come down here, and I've put Hopgood in the edge, obviously dual position. I think he's the must-have of the week, just because he's going to be that big middle forward, big scorer, big minutes over the next bunch of weeks. And Madison's likely to be out, guys. We haven't got any confirmation on that. But even if he is there, they are missing Junior, they are missing RCG, they're missing Sean Lane. So there's going to be a bunch of these minutes that are available. Cartwright's been playing decent minutes off the bench, and now he's in the starting side. They're going to bring in a Murchie or a Dury. And then, how many minutes each week can the Makatoas and the Gregs and these guys play on a regular basis? And we'll speak about, Widemu Greg as well a little bit later. But I think Hopgood is the guy that you do need because he covers both the mid and the edge. We spoke about how tough the midsection is going to be in round 16, and Hopgood's going to cover that. And this is the week I think he's going to go really big again. Probably, he got 69 last week. I think somewhere similar to that would be pretty fair. Obviously has the upside in the 80s as well, which you saw a bunch of weeks ago when he plays those big minutes. So Hopgood's the guy. And the second best option is Jaden Sewer. I have him just over Oluwatu, just because Jaden's been very, very consistent. Oluwatu's had 2 30s in a row, so his price has gone down a bit. His break-even has gone the other way up, unfortunately. So both those guys are going to be good. Sewer will be the second best scorer, in my opinion. Oluwatu could obviously come out and score a try or something like that, but Sewer, the consistent guy in that position. And there's really no one else. So I couldn't even get to the shout-out section because there's no other guys I think could be really good scorers. There's obviously the guys like Helam Lukey, who could be that up and down type of guy, but I'm never going to put him into the top scorers. It'll just be luck if he gets 70 or 80 and beats these guys. So that's that. Let's move to the halves, and there's 3 guys. It's just clear. The 2 best options and the guys I wish I could have just for this week only is Sean Johnson, who I do, but Mitchell Moses is just ahead of Dylan Brown. Obviously, Dylan's been playing really, really well. He's got 3 70s in his past, 4 games or something, which is crazy. But every time he doesn't get to 70, he gets a 40 odd. So if you're looking at captaincies, there's really only 4 guys, in my opinion. There's Johnson, who I think is going to be really consistent, 65 to 70, 60 to 70, I think is probably where he's going to land this week. Could go down to about the 50 at a low, but Johnson's going to be very, very consistent. Mitch Moses has the ceiling, which is really, really cool. So if you want that, then that's awesome. But if you're not sure and he could get you a 30 or 40, then that is definitely in his arsenal. So I think Johnson has a shorter ceiling there, but a much higher floor. Moses is a bit larger than that. Larger than life, they say. Hopgood, I think he's going to be, secondary best option. Jack DeBellin, if you have Adam Fanua Blake, you could definitely go nuts as well. But Jack DeBellin, I think, is the next one. If you don't have any of them, then Harris. If you don't have Cook as well, I think I'd have Cook just ahead of Harris, just with the potential upside. Harris, they're expecting somewhere around that 60 mark. So, Cook has 100 upside. Harris does not. So, that's where I'm at captaincy-wise. And personally, I think, based on before team list, I was thinking Sean Johnson. Depending where Madison's at, if he's out, I think Hopgood has to play close to that 80 minutes. He'll be about a 70-minute guy, and I think he can score somewhere close to 70 with 85 upside. So that's probably the top 2, Hopgood and Johnson there. And then JDB is the third best selection, in my opinion. We'll go to the centers now, and And Jack Bird, God, I hope he comes back and plays. We really need him because I don't think I'm going to be able to. I think with Miller being dropped, it sounds like I'm going to be down to 9. So I think I'll be making 3 trades, getting me to 12, and probably playing 1 wing fullback short, which is what I was thinking anyway. But I kind of have to. I don't have an option now. Like I was thinking about doing the 3 trades to get to a full squad there, but now it's going to be 3 trades to get to 1 short. But my 1 short involves, I've pretty much got the majority of these, top scorers: Johnson, Brown, Hopgood there. I'm going to get Tohu Harris, but Horsburgh, Harris, JDB are going to be my top 3 mids. And then centres, it's Bird and Lemuelu. And I have Gagai in the second best position for the centres, just because he is averaging that. He's averaging better than Lemuelu across the season, and he is here for this week. Doesn't mean he's a buy. He's obviously very expensive, and majority of us have Bird and Lemuelu. But Gagai's, I think, is going to be the second, first or second best scorer. They're the top 2. Bird and Gagai there. But yeah, we really hope that Jack comes back and plays, which would be very much a shocker if he does not. Lemuelu, as I said, he's probably in that 3rd position. And then you got Campbell Graham, likely to play, but obviously carrying a bit of a sternum injury. So if you own him, cool. If you don't, I wouldn't be looking to grab him. And then Tomoko has the upside, so he's been great. And I think he can continue to do that after that low game. And Raiders should be able to bounce back for sure in that one. Let's go to the wing fullbacks then. So it's a very, very tough position this week. In terms of, the best scorers across the year, and we're going on consistency in that, is that Greg Marzou and also Jermaine Asako. So you also have to look, if you were to, most people don't own these 2, but if you were looking to pick either of them up, Marzou misses 14, Asako misses 16 only. So he's going to play the rest of the way. I think they have their buy in 21. So just on the buy period in itself, he misses 1 game, which is really, really cool. We have 2 Newcastle players that miss 14. We have Drinkwater who misses 15, and we have Garrick who misses 14. So they're the shout-outs in the moment. I think Ponga could score really well, so he comes into that 3rd, 4th, 5th best option this week in the wing fullback. And with him not being in Origin, I think there's every chance that he could play in game 2 if Walsh just plays okay, or he's not a bit of not the game breaker, or he makes a couple of errors or something like that, and Ponga plays well at fullback. Then there's every chance that he misses out in around 16 for the night. So something to think about. But in terms of scorers this week, if you like any of these 5, they're going to be the best options as scorers for your side. Ponga, Drinkwater, Garrick all have that sort of 50, 60 point upside. Marzou and Asako very consistent at the moment. But I personally would be going for, I really think Ponga could do really well. I actually have a small interest in Asako because he's having an incredible season. The Dolphins have been pretty good. But for me, it's might be one of the cheaper guys who I explained in a second. I mentioned in the last video. We got Drinkwater and Garrick, both great options as well. And if Garrick gets the fullback position over KO Weeks this time, then he becomes much more important. So that is the 13 that I think will be scoring best. So it's going to be interesting after this week to see if they are the guys in that top 13, and if you do own pretty much everyone I put in that list, that you go the best or not. So that'd be cool to actually have a look at. Let's do that come next week. So that's that section there. Let's move to the best mid-range and cheapies for 13. And if I have missed anyone, guys, please don't kill me in the comments. Just let me know kindly, and I'll put something in the comments there and pin that as my analysis, or we'll definitely go through it with Scoop in that next video. But in the hooking position, I really only think it's Little for round 13. There's a couple that might come up in 14 with Turpin and these type of guys there. But yeah, Little is going to be that only potential mid-range guy, but not super excited. All these guys are just options. They're not guys that I'm recommending. Unless I'm trading them in, and I'll recommend it. And a lot of these guys you actually own in your team. Currently, mids, Totola, he's going to be the best mid-range guy, and then the other ones are going to be Hold. So I'm not sure about Offa Hengawe at the moment. He hasn't actually been scoring that well. His PPM's been very low. Picked up that try on the weekend and still had a very low PPM. So I'd be looking at him and maybe in round 15. And someone like Riddimu Greg is probably a better option this week, given the minutes that he's going to have to play if Madison's out as well. So, it could be that 40, 50 minutes and a 40 or 45 again. Same with Makatoa. So I've got him as question marks. So it's like, ugh. We mentioned him at the start of the year, and then he didn't even get on the park. So absolute shocker there. But that's Makatoa potential. Hame Sele, if you're owning him, he's a hold as well. In the edge, we have Hila Maluki, who obviously has the most upside out of all of the edges, and I will be playing him. So it's going to be Hopgood and Lukey for me. I don't have the ability to bring in a Sua or a Olaquatu, and I also don't have the trades, but I have the 2 already, which is cool. Jacob Host, if you're holding him, which is awesome. As I said, potentially some cheapy Options is going to be, I think Host will start this week, so should be able to score okay for you. There'll be some cheapy options, and obviously Ben Trebojevic going down means there's going to be a replacement in his spot. It could be Fainu, who played on the weekend. It could be Condon, someone like that. Ben Mendocasilla with the wink there. We love Benny Boy, the legend. Making cash, hand over fist, isn't he? Couchman is obviously the other option as well. If you need any of them to play, then they will do a job, but not score you anywhere near the likes of the guys ahead of him. Halves, we've got Hastings. He's been scoring solidly. We will go through all of these guys if we think they're a potential option after team lists for sure, guys. So, stick around for that video with Scoot tomorrow. Crossland, obviously a hold as well if you need to play him. Nikarima, and then Katoa. It would be my last, just because he got the 50 minutes on the weekend, and he might be a sell for you if you have enough halves like myself. I think I'll be selling Isaiah Katoa. And then the last two positions, guys, we have Zach Lomax, who is that next best sort of mid-range guy in the centers. There's obviously a lot in that top range. So, do you want Lomax at the moment in a team that's not going super well? Or do you go for, just one of those higher price guys for sure? And then Isaiah Tass. And there's no real cheapies. Obviously, Valence Tafade, he's wing fullback and center. So if he does play this week with Hammer out, if they move Asako back to fullback, that's something to think about as well. Like, is Asako going to be better scoring on the wing, or is he going to be better back at fullback as well? But Isaiah Tass, he's really cheap. Just hasn't been scoring well enough, though, to warrant selection, I think. But for me, we got Tafade. If he plays, then he becomes an option. Obviously, a cheap one at that, who's going to make some money with his low, negative break even. Chansinkle Kluxa, I'm actually interested in grabbing him this week, considering he only misses 16. He's going to play this week, next week. He's very consistent, which is good. And I think this week against a Brisbane side that is missing a lot of players, this could be the week that he does get that 45 to 55. He's only got one of them this week, one of them this year. One big score in that first game. He's kind of been, 37, 45, 26, like that kind of level. So he's definitely someone at that cheap price that's going to plug and play a role in that wing fullback position for me. And then, he can be there if Teddy doesn't back up and stuff like that. So I think I might actually be holding Teddy this week, but we'll see. Probably have to get rid of Miller, get rid of Isaiah Katoa, and then Brandon Smith is where I'm thinking at the moment. Alex Johnson is cheap as well. I would have him, in third position there. If Tafade's not named, then it's, any of those two, Chans or also Johnson, which is cool. And then you got Tolu Kola. He's very cheap, but not in a great position, center or wing fullback for him. And then KO Weeks is the other option there if he does get that fullback position. But again, if he does get that position, it means I think he would play a couple of games of fullback, but chances of him making a lot of money are pretty slim. The amount of games he's going to play is going to be fairly low. So that's that with this video, guys. Obviously, it's going to help you out. Looking to make your best 13 for this week, and we'll get into the team lists tonight, and then we'll get into the next video with Scoop going through all of those potential options. And good to get his perspective as well as mine, bouncing back off each other, not just potential options at this point. It'll be like, okay, let's actually get in, make those trades, and make it happen. I wish you all the best of luck making your 13. I hope everything's clear, as you can only have your starting 13. The bench does not matter. You can loop. Guys, if you have three halves, if you have Isaiah Katoa, Brown and Moses, or Brown and Johnson, you have three, you can loop Katoa in. If one of those guys gets a head knock or something like that, then you can get Isaiah Katoa's score, which is going to be very, very helpful in that one. So, wish you all the best of luck, and we'll catch you in the next one.